21st of July. 5.5 days ago, I was dead on the operating table. 2.5 days ago, I got to come home. And we wanted to tell you about some of the experiences that have transpired.
And before we do that, we would like to thank you for your eternal patience as we've gone through this process, and for your contributions, your love, your prayers, and all of the other things that have come with that.
Think they're ready for this?
I don't know.
I know it's not the way you're used to seeing us come across. Usually I'm the voice behind the camera and she's running point out in the woods when we're chasing around after the big guys. And we've had some pretty incredible things that have gone on in the last several months, and it's best that you see us. I'm going to use this as a baseline. Right now you're getting to see me at my absolute rock bottom worst, and you're also getting to see me beginning my absolute best.
Yes. Yes.
Today's the 21st of July. 5.5 days ago I was dead on the operating table. 2.5 days ago I got to come home, and we wanted to tell you about some of the experiences that have transpired.
And before we do that, we would like to thank you for your eternal patience as we've gone through this process, and for your contributions, your love, your prayers, and all of the other things that have come with that.
Well, I think we should probably go back 9 or 10 months to where most of this started to come about to where we are today. And it seemed like just out of nowhere I was under attack with all kinds of crazy physical ailments. I had an episode September, October-ish last year, one of the worst episodes of gout that I had ever experienced, and it just would not let go. This was 6, 7, 8 weeks
Mine was both feet.
Jump in any time that you want to jump in. It's still hard to catch breath sometimes.
Well, he had, when they pulled the tube out of one lung, it had half left, so he's still getting air back in that. But yeah, it's just been a roller coaster, and thought at first, which we mentioned in the last video, I believe, that we thought that some of what he was struggling with was due to digestive issues, and as it turned out, it wasn't.
So after all of that gout finally processed itself out, I had a couple of good weeks, and then I woke up one morning and it was just a searing pain of a knife in my chest. All of the muscles in my neck were numb, my arms were numb. And then after about 20-30 minutes it dissipated, and then I went 3 or 4 days with no issue, and then it would start creeping around, and it would get extremely active after I would eat anything.
Which is why we were connecting it to something digestive. But long story short, he struggled with that for a while. He'd worked for so long, and then he would, I'm sorry for the noise, we've got an incubator turning rack. But he could work for so long, and then he'd sit for so long, and it was this way for months. And with my schedule, it rotates, and sometimes I could be better health than other times. But in March, I decided to take a stumble off of the front porch and landed flat on my right shoulder and broke it right below the ball. So I was in a sling for, I think I took myself out of it at 2 months, and I was working the whole time, but I wasn't able to help him very much with what we had. And it was just
One
weeks
thing after another.
weeks.
I was doing my best to maintain the things that we have outside for the animals, and trying to help the best that I could with her arm being messed up. And I started changing everything about my diet completely around. Got rid of all the processed foods, got rid of all the starches and the breads and things like that.
All the white starches,
all the white
particularly.
stuff, all the sugars, everything. Just meat, fruit, and vegetables is what I completely transitioned to on my own accord.
And we added some supplements that we felt would help. As it turns out, he was potassium and magnesium deficient, even though he ate bananas and a lot of leafy greens. He still had a deficiency when he got to the hospital. So, it's always a flip of the coin for anybody as to what's normal for their body and what they need. They have a recommended allowance, but that may or may not always be enough for some people.
So the issues with the chest pain and all of that kind of teetered between good and bad for a couple of months. And we kept telling ourselves, well, we'll ride this out just a little bit longer, and that transpired into 9-10 months of we just needed to pull ourselves away from everything of the outside world and just try to take care of ourselves. And had a really good episode the first part of July. I felt really, really good. Thought things were falling together with the dietary changes and all of that. And she went to work on a Tuesday, and that Tuesday after like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it just came back in full force, worse than it had ever been. And I knew if I didn't go to the ER, I probably wouldn't make it through the night. So I patiently fought with it and waited on the porch for her to pull into the driveway. Because this whole time we had been waiting on insurance to kick in. I didn't want to run up bills of like ambulance service and other unnecessary things. So I'm just hanging on by my fingernails. Don't die till July, don't die till July. You got to make it till then when we can get the doctors and stuff all lined up.
And I literally had one contract contribution paid in on the insurance when I qualified for it, when all of this blew up. So divine timing is a thing. It's, I have felt a lot of energies around Ken particularly, and trying to help him preserve, help him manage, and his stubbornity may not have helped his situation a little bit, and certainly would have taken him had I known that it was as severe as it was.
You just try to keep a stone cold face and bite your tongue and get through it. Just willpower and stubbornness is the only thing you can attribute it to. But the week leading up to the big blowout, I had really unusual, weird experiences, and this is, extreme coming from us because we're the king and queen
of weird.
Weird and unusual. But in my peripheral, I kept seeing figures and images and all sorts of little entities and energies. It's like they were just gathering in, some like they were offering protection, and some like they were just waiting to see the show. I don't know how else to explain it. It wasn't in any physical form, like you could say it was this type of thing or that type of thing, but it was just all of these energies gathering around. And that led all the way up to that Tuesday, and we got to the ER, and that was a nightmare for me. And
he was ready to go home. He was ready to be out of the hallway, as most people are in these situations. And
they had ran the EKG and determined that they couldn't find any type of heart attack damage on the EKG. But then they obviously, of course, they want to run all the tests and all of this. We got there around 8 o'clock in the evening, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm still in this narrow hallway corridor, and they've got us right next to some of the worst patients
because
there.
That's what it's for, right?
And I was not having it. I'm going to die on my own terms instead of lay here on this bed waiting. I'd rather get up and go home and just die in my bed and get it over with.
And they were able to because of his blood pressure, it was 248 over 137, I believe. And because of the stroke risk, they were able to expedite him to what they call the stroke floor, or the head floor, for anything of that nature. And finally got him sorted out, and it was a couple days. It was rough, and like he said, he felt like, they did the heart cath, of course, and that's when they found the blockages. 3 big ones that they detected right away, and a couple of smaller ones, but they weren't worried about the smaller ones. They weren't life-threatening. The others were 70 to 80% at least, and one was on the left, one was on the right, one was in the front. So they said, basically they hoped that he would opt for bypass surgery at his young age, which after hearing it 6 times made him feel much better.
I didn't realize I was a young age.
But there are a lot of individuals that go through this in their 70s, maybe even in 80s, So to them, he was young and felt like his recovery would be all the better for it, and his longevity would be better than placing stents that were unpredictable and so on. So
after all of the blood work, after all the testing, all of the x-rays, the CT scans, the catheter up my arm to do the imaging and all of that, it was the 80% blockages in these arteries. Hyperactive, you're going to have to help me.
The cortisol?
The cortisol and the adrenaline.
Yes. His adrenal gland was producing extra cortisol under the stress, and that's a combination of life stresses. That's a combination, I mean, combined with, I should say, the stress of the physical discomfort, all the things of trying to keep up on stuff, and so his cortisol had gone into hyperdrive, and it creates a calcification within the body, which contributed to the gout. It contributed to the blockages, and of course our eating habits over years, and all kinds of things add up.
There's a lot of factors that play in through your DNA, through generations before you. You are passed down stresses from family members, parents, and so on, grandparents, and these things are, laying dormant like a time bomb in your system.
And the saying, the sins of the father are passed to the son. If we don't conquer some of those challenges emotionally, it can be belief systems, it can be thought patterns, then that tendency is there, and we kind of pick up that ball and chain energetically if it hasn't been conquered before us. So, hopefully we're conquering something in that emotion code for our own children and for generations that couldn't or didn't, however that transpires. But
you'll have to bear with me, and I know my facial expressions are kind of rough right now, but there's still a lot of physical pain going on, and it's hard to keep wind and to keep a flowing conversation.
It's okay, take your time.
So
I can talk enough for both of us.
I don't want to gross anybody out, and I don't know if I should show them or not, but I've got the battle scars from here to here, and everything in between. It's a mess.
But he's also been healing quickly, and I do attribute that to not only God's grace, but the energy of some amazing people that have really been focused on his healing. And these things matter. I don't care what anybody has told us. They matter. We're all connected. And part of the reason that we did not verbalize more about what was going on, truly, although we have some incredible individuals involved with the channel, with our lives, we even were slow to involve our families, because we as people, and we've probably done it unintentionally, but we as people have a tendency to think, even for a fleeting moment, the worst case scenarios. We have a tendency to maybe verbalize something that we don't realize is giving a permission to adverse effect in our own lives, much less other people. And we kept our cards very close to our chest, because as much as we trust the majority with our well-being, we also know human nature enough to know that those little tiny add-ons can cause an amazing amount of damage in the energetics.
That, and another aspect of it is I was raised by grandparents of the World War II generation. Don't cry, or I'll give you something to cry about. If you've got a problem, keep it to yourself, because everybody in the world's got their own problems, their own issues. They don't need you to dump yours on them. And that's the mindset that was pounded into my brain forever.
And I think it created their own conditions, and that's something else to be conquered.
We get to Monday, the 15th. They've got me prepped for surgery. I'm downstairs, and the last thing I told the doctor before they gave me the anesthesia was, just make sure you get the jumper cables hooked up right. Bring me back up off this table, because it's a long 5-6 hour process. You're on breathing tubes. They literally shut off your heart and put you on a pump, and then go to work trying to overhaul your system. If you've been through it, you understand what I'm talking about. It's a lot to try to explain in detail, so
anticipating 4 to 5 hours with the triple, but they found out there was an additional blockage that they'd missed in the front. So it became a quadruple. Doctor wanted it to be a one and done. And there was a point where they had stopped. They were texting me every hour, basically saying the procedure was still in progress, patient's doing well. And then there came a point, and I could feel the people around. On coup is something else, but there was a point where I knew something was going on, and I just kind of heard, we got this. And so I took a deep breath and I tried to relax so I wasn't adding any complication energetically to it. But as it turned out, he had an adverse and extreme, as the doctor said, response to protamine, which is what they use to lower your blood pressure. And he bottomed out at 30 over nothing. And I think that was probably the point where I felt.
That's where I stepped out. And regardless as to what people say, anesthesia is not a pain disconnect. Your body is still feeling everything that it's going through. It ultimately is designed to hopefully erase your memories of the experience that you're going through. Up until the time I bottomed out and flatlined, I could feel the cold, I could feel the anger, I could feel the fear, I could feel the living, is the way you explain it, the aspects of the living world. And in an instant, I was face down, and just in the clearest stream, river, creek, however you want to call it, and everything was just gone. It was the absence of any type of human sensation, but the absolute fulfillment of every emotional desire, I guess is how to explain it. And I'm still trying to sort through all of it, and I'm bringing it to you in the raw while it's still fresh. So hopefully we can look back on this and get a little more clarity as it all falls into place. But in the water, every drop of water, every prism was an element of a different plane of existence, a different level of existence. It was like you could see the picture of everything universally, interdimensionally, and beyond that. You were just encompassed in this all. And that is
The term that came to me when I was hearing this earlier was living water. So how that, obviously we are 70+% water in our bodies, I do feel it to be applicable.
Was I met with anyone that I could name names? No, it wasn't like that. You hear these stories of they went through this tunnel of light and all of this. It was not like that for me. I was on this flowing river, and I was connected to everything that was soulfully awake, soulfully aware. And I was them and they were me, all at the same point. And these energies would approach me, and then they would kind of go back to the peripheral, and this went on for I don't know how long it took them to finally get me started up again. I didn't have the experience of floating above the operating table and watching them work on me, and I'm glad, because the river was much preferable.
Right.
But toward the end, I got to see all of the contracts that I had made with people in this existence, and agreements that had been made, and connections that are supposed to be. And I had the choice to uphold those commitments and those connections connections or to stay in the river. And I'm still torn. And I still feel
It's okay. He told me that he was feeling guilty to a degree because he really wanted to stay in that peace place, to not have to deal with this dense illusion of a world that we live in. But he couldn't get himself to break those contracts that he had agreed to. And that's family, that's, a number of individuals. And it's a hard thing.
No, I wanted to be greedy. I wanted to just choose for myself. But I didn't want to disappoint, and I didn't want to let down what I was obligated to. But everything that we know as our reality, everything that you perceive to be real to you right now, is just a tiny microcosm in the grandness of everything that is connected together. And once you see that picture and you see your cog in that wheel and how every person's role is so important energetically to the next one in their evolution, you can't not make that choice to be greedy for yourself, no matter how bad.
It's okay. Deep breaths, just relax for a minute. I'll step in for a second. And I think all of us could try to assess, unless we've been there, we could try to assess what that must be like to have that stillness, that calm, that peace, the joy of simply being. And one thing that Ken mentioned to me was that it's all about source energy. It's all about love. It's our ability to not only offer it, and love being about acceptance, to know and to realize that every one of us is in exactly the place that we're intended to be at the point of our soulful development. Some might be old souls, some might be young souls. Really just getting the first time experience on the earth plane, or the second time. And those individuals are very well taken care of because they're really just here to experience it. And they don't have maybe some of the challenges that others do. Some of the oldest souls have the biggest challenges. I have no doubt that the homeless on the street and some of these are truly aiming for their crown, and whether we understand it or not, whether we agree or not, is irrelevant, because love is not about agreeance, and it's not about what's the word I want? It's not about what we prefer. It's about accepting that soul as a part of who we are, as a part of that one heart, that one mind, and to be able to maybe not try to assess so much what that person's done to deserve X, Y, and Z, or all these things that we consistently think we have a right to interject. And it's just not about that. It's about acceptance, and the sooner we learn and understand acceptance, and the people have shown this as well, but the sooner we can not only be sovereign to ourselves, but to accept others in the space that they're in, the sooner we can experience that one heart, that one mind, that source energy in its truest form, instead of this illusionary chessboard that we're on. You know.
I said this arena that we see ourselves in, it's one tiny microcosm to the big picture. There are what some would label as alien elements, some would label as cryptid elements. You can call it us and them, you can call it good and bad. There's either light bringers or there's a vampiric energy. However you want to put a label on each type of vampiric energy is your own business. I'm not here to tell you what to believe, what not to believe. I'm only here to share an experience that I've had, and if it helps somebody somewhere that hears the sound of my voice at some point to ring that bell of whatever awareness, then I've done that job. But it is just a constant war between the vampiric energies, trying to pull us down into submission, trying to create separation, fear, all of these negative things to feed off of those energies. That's their only sustenance. And the opposite of that is everyone else that is plugged into that light, into that conscious knowing of we're all the same entity, we're just separate pieces of the same puzzle.
Fingers and toes, yeah.
It's a lot to get out.
Yeah. But it's really in recognizing, acknowledging at least. You got your dark t-shirts, you got your white t-shirts. And you're one or the other. I mean, there's very little room for gray matter. And it's something that Anju has been impressing upon me and in session as of late is it is time to get off the fence. It is time to make your choices. The judgment is going to be different for every soul based on, the Creator knows us, our experiences, everything that we've been since our creation in that. But what we do with our light, what we do with who we are, it could just be a kind word, it could be a small act that reflects that is who we are. And it's very much about living the example, operating in faith, operating in gratitude, looking for the gem in all of that muck. What is the gift? And when Ken came back, one of the things he kept telling us was he had been given a new bucket. He needed to find, I think the term was midgets.
I was still under anesthesia.
He had some good medicine, but he knew he had a bucket.
I was trying to find a way to explain it. And they had given me a brand new shiny bucket to refill with all of the jewels that I am on my way to collect now. And I had these little energetic,
like little people
helpers that were helping me with this. So I guess I had my own Oompa Loompas
or wee peoples. But the point being is when we're in it, our opportunities come every single day. Our opportunities to choose. And we may probably, I would say, we miss a lot of them.
A lot of things just go right past almost everybody. It's a very minimal few that can grasp some of the things that are being tossed their way.
And we become creatures of habit, all of us. And I think it's essential that we become much more in the present, in this moment, and get out of the future, get out of the past. Be here, because this is where you are, and all, as Anka has often said, all time is now. So by being present, you are affecting that past and that future simultaneously. It's all in that interdimensionalness. It's all this moment. And no, we can't see all of that with these eyes, but that doesn't...
It's just like all of these things that exist in the shadows. 90% of them are real. They're out there. Don't think that they aren't. Yes, I know that they are. But we as a species have been bombarded for so long by all of these other
dark t-shirts,
other entities, other things, that we've gotten to the point where we think it's normal to be in separation, to be in fear, to be in doubt, to be in suspense of our own life, to keep us in that chaotic, adrenaline rushed
food source. That's all we are. When we allow ourselves to be in that place, we are nothing but a food source.
We're just the tuna to the shark, if we allow it.
And the shark doesn't care if it's
me, if it's you, if it's her.
No.
Anything that they can get its hooks into.
But when we follow the path of light, when we follow source energy, and we truly embrace love for what it is, which is acceptance, and we can develop compassion for things that we haven't understood, those are the true gifts. Offering joy, offering peace to an environment that is incredibly chaotic, especially right now. I mean, we're seeing times that
we're living through the times of these ultimate battles.
Yeah, and we can be the warriors or we can be the victims. We can...
That's your free will. That's your freedom of choice. You can be the lion or you can be the lamb.
And I think for us personally, we intend on being those lions. You know, it's going to be a challenge to restructure, I think is the word I want, restructure some habits that we've caught ourselves in. We just had 37 years together, and you can't spend that much time with anyone or in a situation and not become, I'm going to use the word numb for lack of a better word, but you become numb to certain things out of habit, out of routine, out of, you know, some of the things that life throws at you. And we've been blessed as far as I'm concerned, because we've been given opportunity to slow down and realize what is important. Ken's been given a whole new slate. And even with my broken shoulder, I had powerful lessons to learn in that, you know, being willing to ask for help if that's what I needed at work, or being willing to just settle down and realize I don't have to go at life like I'm killing cats to have worth. And I think that all of us need to slow down, and we need to be able to pay attention to the details, because it really is in the details. Even though we're meant to see the bigger picture, those details are kind of like sparkles in that grid of what is. And we need to be able to stop long enough to ask the right questions, you know, to retract our energy from a moment and say, okay, am I being duped, or is this divine will? And be able to kind of observe more than react.
Well, here's the thing that might ruffle some feathers, and I really don't care. I'm at the point now, it doesn't matter because I know what has been shown to me, and I know and feel what I know to be true for myself. If it's a benefit to you, great. If it's not something you believe in, that's exactly where you're supposed to be in your progression of your life, so you can take it for what it's worth. But we as humans, as a human species, and this is part of that being bombarded with that separation. We've been given that conceited, narcissistic thought in our brain that we're the only ones in grace, or could be capable of being the only ones in grace. And we're not. Anything that carries that God essence, that God spark, it doesn't matter if it's a human. There are a multitude of animals that we're aware of that still carry in some degree or another that essence of being connected. Elephants, whales, dolphins, there's your dogs, there's all kinds of things out there. And on different levels, some of the big hairy guys, the people, some of the things that we think as a boogeyman in the dark, or elementals, or the wee people. My little Oompa Loompas helping me with my bucket. Just because they are perceived differently than us doesn't mean that that soul essence didn't spring from that same well.
I know Uncle has expressed to me that their word is essential, but not only that, but they are held to high accountability in that, in the way they operate, for better or worse. Thereby, they've been amazing in this group that we have been working with, and have been steadfast in their commitment to us as we have been in our commitment to them. Even without the videos, it's still a relationship.
They're still out there every evening.
I mean,
you can still hear it and feel it and know it.
They were at the hospital with it, in essence. And that's the thing with interdimensional beings,
But understand me when I'm saying that some of those have those greater essence, that greater soulful energy.
Yes.
There are some that are the extreme opposite.
Yes.
I will not ever say that that is not the case, because I know that that is the case. There are some that are black as pitch, that just want to drag us down into a feeding frenzy and devour us till there's nothing left. And it's on a multitude of layers that this battle is going on. We're seeing it in our own world around us every day, especially now. We see that tug of war.
And it's that much more critical that we begin to honor who we truly are and live who we truly are, because otherwise we're just helping them in their cause.
There's going to be a lot more of this in the coming weeks for us to delve into and to share with you. In the meantime, just take a minute and in the morning, instead of drudging your way through your routine of, I have to get up for work, and I have to fight my way through traffic, and I have to do all this, and bringing yourself down, just say, I get to wake up in the morning. I get to pick out my clothes.
And thank you.
I get to find something for breakfast. I get to go to work. I'm a lucky one.
Mm-hmm.
Just make it a positive. All of the things that we're tearing ourselves down about, flip it over. And find that moment where you can actually appreciate someone, anyone, I don't care who it is, for just that unconditional, raw, 100% they are what they are, and I can love you and I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
You got to start breaking these chains.
And it's up to us. Nobody's going to do that for us. And our lack of accountability in it is criminal thus far. but we now are at the brink of that golden age where the 5D is truly, the earth is truly ready to give birth, and we need to get on board. We need to exemplify what that is and what it's intended to be. And we don't have to have all the answers. That's not what it's about, but it is about the heart space. It's about our ability to receive love and give love and be able to keep from shielding ourselves from others. You know, we've all had bad experiences with people, but what happens is over a period of time we shield ourselves
We grow all those scars and scabs, and we shield ourselves away and become the old hermit in the mountain. And those are the ones that need that unconditional love or that connection more than happy-go-lucky Odie that everything just falls into their lap. You know, they're here on their first go-around. It's all a brand new playground to them. The ones that have all the battle scars and have the humped over shoulders from being beaten down again and again and again, they need it the most. At the end of the day, we all bleed the same. We all feel pain the same. We all crave to be loved and feel joy the same. There's no difference between us in that regard. And we need to quit beating each other up.
Yes. Yes.
And we're going to leave it with it like this right now. There's so much more that I'm still processing and trying to put into some type of understandable dialogue. And it's hard to hold and maintain any kind of posture because this is like a level 9 of hurt right now.
But we do thank you for being with us. We thank you for your loyalty. Again, for your love. We hope to be bringing some different information to the table. You said the people are still just as active, and then more than just the people. I mean, it's just become this whole
everywhere
stage of energies, and it's got its time. It has its place, but it was necessary for us to go through this, and they could not interfere completely. I feel like they absolutely were allowed to buffer some of that until it became manageable for us, i.e. the insurance and different things, and it was truly through God's grace that all of it went exactly the way that it did. So our gratitude in that is huge. But we are thankful for all of you too.
Every one of you. Even the ones that don't agree with us, even the ones that talk bad about us.
It's okay.
They're still sending us energy.
Yep. But everybody have a good night. We look forward to seeing you soon.